You're listening to the Clean Comedy Podcast with your host, James Creviston.
Hey everybody, it's James. Welcome to the Clean Comedy Podcast. Today, I have an amazing show for you guys. I've been watching this company, not knowing who was behind it or what was going on, but I see all my friends. I see Darren Carter go up there. I see AC on there. I see all these guys that I know popping up for this company called the Comedy Cartel, and I'm like, what is going on? Is this a secret comedy mob that I'm not part of? Like, how do I become part of this comedy mob? So I reached out. And I'm lucky enough, and we're lucky enough today, to have Kevin, who is the owner of the Comedy Cartel, who's going to come and talk to us about his business. Kevin, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate that, man. Very nice of you to say that.
Yeah, I mean, I was like watching it all over Instagram. I was like, what is this? Like, what's going on? I thought it was like, I literally did think it was like a secret comedy mafia, like that I had no, it's like, yeah, what handshake do I need to learn?
I think the word cartel gives it probably that flavor to it. But, yeah, it's just a booking agency like so many others out there, and we just book comedy shows. I've been doing this probably, I don't know. I started probably 2014, somewhere in the ballpark, and I don't know if you wanted me to give you the backstory on that.
Yeah, please. I would love it. Yeah, because it's very interesting to be fair, while you say there's a lot of booking agencies, there's not really a lot of booking agencies who make themselves known to comedians. So that's the big thing is, like, we don't know where to go. So we're trying to get booked in clubs. We're trying to do stuff like people like me, and I know Darren as well, are always hustling to try to get shows or corporate gigs or whatever. So when there is somebody who can do that or can help with that and wants to work with comedians, that is always eye-opening.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I'm a comedian myself, and sound like you are too, right? You do comedy.
Yeah.
So I started in comedy in 2007 in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I'm a hustler just like you seem to be. And so I started comedy, and I started trying to work. I was getting some gigs. I got some MC spots. I featured a little bit for the Comedy Zone in Charlotte, but I wasn't getting booked a lot. And I thought, you know what, this is getting annoying because I personally, and I don't know if it's my age or what, but I just hate the idea of standing in line behind a bunch of other comedians who are there to kiss the ring of a booker or a comedy club. I hated that. So I thought, screw that shit. I'm going to start my own. So one day, and I'd gotten divorced by this time too, but I was in a new apartment community, and I was in Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm standing in the clubhouse of this apartment community. And I mentioned to the property manager, because she was there talking to me, we were just shooting the crap. And I said, you should do a comedy show in here. And she's like, oh my God, that's a great idea. I'm like, well, let's do it. So like a few weeks later, we did a comedy show. They went bananas over it. And I thought, well, heck, if they like it so much, let's do it again. So we did it again a month later. Again, huge success. People went crazy for it. Then I started thinking, well, shoot, if they like it so much, then maybe I can reach out to other apartment communities in the area. And that's exactly what I did. And I started booking shows around Charlotte and got some shows lined up. So I started booking my own stuff. And then, of course, I have I have an entrepreneurial mind. I want to take over the world. That's my slogan. I'm the world taker over. So I thought, well, hell, there's apartments all over the country. So I just got on the internet and started contacting apartment communities, started booking in the Southeast, went to Florida, booked some in Virginia, then I went a little more west, and then I went to California, and then now we book all over the United States. That's just apartments. And that's how the Comedy Cartel concept started within the apartment community industry.
That's smart. That's really, I would have never in a million years thought of that. So that's genius. You thought outside of the box, someplace that's unique. That's amazing.
Exactly right. And the thing too with the apartments, what's cool about it is they have a built-in audience.
Yeah.
So I don't have to worry about selling tickets. I just sell, the show, right?
Yeah.
So over time, we've evolved from apartments to now we book country clubs around the country. I'm getting into corporate stuff. We do some corporate stuff. That's the bigger ticket items.
Yeah.
If I can get into that, realm, then it'd be really well. But right now, it's mostly country clubs and apartment communities and some corporate stuff now. So I'm building the corporate part of my business now, and I'm doing, like, I think you noticed a flyer that I'm doing at Pickwick Bowl.
Yeah.
In Burbank. And I do bars and stuff like that, but those don't I do those for more for myself and other comedians who stage time because it's not a big money maker for me.
No. So where are you based out of now? Are you still out in North Carolina? Or are you in
I'm
California?
back in LA.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
I moved back out here. This is the third time I've been here.
Oh
So
my
I moved
gosh.
out here. Yeah, I moved out here probably 6, 7 years ago, and then I stayed for about a year and a half. I had to go back for family issues, and stayed there for a year in North Carolina, and then moved back to LA,
Wow.
and was here for almost 2 years, and the pandemic hit, and then I said, "Screw it, I'm going back to Charlotte," and then went back to Charlotte for 2 years, and came back to LA in October.
Wow. And you hit the ground running because, like I said, I've seen all these things and I was like, man, what's going on?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
when you're looking for comedians to work with and stuff, what's your process for picking comedians to put on shows? What are you looking for as a booker? Because a lot of times comedians go, well, I have a good tape, I get good laughs, but no one's booking me. What am I doing wrong? So what is it if you had to get and say to a comedian, this is what I'm looking for when I want to book people? What are those things that you're looking for?
Well, the biggest challenge I think as a comedian myself is there's so many of us
Right.
and there's so fewer opportunities.
Right.
So it's unfortunate, but we have to just stay persistent, and just try to just keep reach out. And I tell comedians all the time, always reach out to me, shoot me a text, shoot me an email, because honestly, I just forget.
Yeah.
When I book a show and it's like, let's say it's in, Austin, Texas, or wherever it's at, I go, oh, my guy there in Boston, or what, my guy here, and then I've met other comedians, I've talked to other comedians, but I might just forget about them. And I told someone that the other day here in LA. It was a new girl I met. I says, please just keep reaching out to me, keep shooting me a text, even if it's just like, hey, Kev, what's up? Hope you're doing well. Then I'll go, okay, yeah, you know. And that's happened before where I've been looking for a comedian and then someone shot me a text. I go, oh, that's perfect. I'll use that person.
Yeah.
I think the comedians need to just keep just reaching out, just
Yeah.
keep trying to build a relationship.
And it's funny because there's like conflicting information with that. We're like, don't bug a booker, don't bother a booker, and then it's like, well, if you're not on the radar, you're not going to get booked either. So it's like, what do you do? It's kind of that limbo thing all the time. Like, it's like almost like dating. Like you're like, how much should I,
Yeah.
do things, or how much should I just lay off and say, well, they'll come to me when they're ready or whatever and stuff. It's really a funny game.
I think with most bookers, we already have our core people that we think about immediately.
Right.
When I book a show, I think about someone immediately, depending what city it's in. I think about them immediately and go, boom. Then I reach out to them first. Then if they're not available, then I start, okay, who do I know? And
Yeah.
if someone is in that city that I'm looking for a comedian for that I don't remember reaches out to me, then that's going to be a benefit for them and me. So I think it's important to just, and you don't have to be a nuisance about it.
Right.
Just, hey, what's up? Like I tell people to reach out, every so often. Hey, just checking in. There's a guy in Boston, matter of fact. His name is Corey Manning, and he's great at it. He just shoots an email once in a while. Hey, these are my veils. Just so you look, just so if you got anything or whatever. And he's nice about it. He's not a pain in the butt. But I understand as a comedian how important it is to stay in touch with the booker, so I don't get irritated by emails coming through or texts coming through. I get it. Way to hustle. Way to keep going. Way to stay on the radar.
Yeah.
But I think I think that's the smartest move. Just keep reaching out.
That's the way to do it. And do you perform on your shows as well? Like what locally ones or wherever you're at? Do you go and perform on those as well?
I do when I can. Yeah. We just did a country club in St. Gabriel. Do you know John DeResta?
Yeah, I do. I do know John DeResta.
He's great. He headlined for me, and I went in there and hosted it, and I brought in a couple other people. Sharon Mahoney. I don't know if you know her. She was great. Jeff Frame. He was great. And so I hosted it and got my stage time, did my jokes, and then I brought them two up, and then I brought John, and John headlined it. So I do that sometimes, and then sometimes with department shows, if it's a show I do, I'll go and host it, and I'll do like a 5-minute hosting deal, and I'll bring in a couple of comedians, and then when they're done, then I'll come back and headline it after the show, after them. So it just kind of depends what I do.
That's awesome. Yeah, I like that you're involved in it still, that you're going to do stuff. What's the like weirdest location, like city, state, or whatever, that you've produced a show? Like some places like people are like, what? They would do comedy there,
Good question. So the apartments, those are in most major cities, so that's nothing unusual there. The
Yeah.
most unusual place that I booked or that I've been a part of.
Either or. Yeah, let's hear it.
Well, I will tell you, I did a show in Jacksonville, Florida,
Okay.
with the guy I was opening for this headliner from a friend of mine from Charlotte, North Carolina, and it was it was an interesting show for me only because okay, how can I put this delicately? So my friend was African American. The show was in a part of town that was just neglected.
Got
Okay?
you.
So which is fine, but it was also inside of a motel room.
Not even a hotel, a motel.
A motel room, a rundown motel room, and
Wow.
we parked in the parking lot and immediately got swarmed by people like, "Whoa, what are you doing here? What's going on? What are you guys doing here?" I'm like, "Oh shit!" And my friend's like, "We're doing a comedy show." "Oh, you with the comedy show? Okay, go, go, go." I'm like, "Oh, what the hell was that about?" And as we're walking up to the room, there's people on the on the balconies or whatever, on the walkways, hanging out, smoking, doing whatever they're doing. And we walk into this motel room, and it was two rooms with the wall in the center torn down. So now it's one big room.
Oh my gosh.
It was the most unique place I've ever performed. And I was a little nervous, to be honest with you, because I was literally the only white guy. Well, actually, I had brought my girlfriend with me. Her and I were the only white people in there. But what's interesting about that is, as awkward as that was for me, we crushed that room. They loved us, man. It was such an amazing show, but everything up to that point was like, what the hell did I get myself into? This
Yeah.
feels weird. I'm doing a comedy show in a motel room and in some beat up looking abandoned place. Like, oh my God. But it was fun. We had a great time.
That sounds amazing, and like that's a great road story. Just like this is something crazy that happened to us. I love stuff like that because comedy is one of the few things where you can end up doing comedy in random places where you're like, how did I get here? What is going on? So that's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, what is when people contact you do you reach out, or do a lot of people reach out to you to contact you to book shows and stuff like that, or what's your process like for those things?
When I find gigs,
You find gigs, or like through Comedy Cartel, are you reaching out to businesses, or are you reaching out to people, or are you having people incoming leads? Like, what's the process for you?
well, it's literally it's still after this many years for me, anyways. And if any other bookers have a secret, please tell me, man, because literally spend all day long making phone calls and sending out emails and doing follow-ups and trying to get the social media going. And I'm constantly looking for work.
Right.
Now I'm trying to book on a national level and book all these comedians. But it's just for me, it's a constant, almost 24/7. I literally don't do anything but comedy. Like my after the offices closed, the country clubs closed, the apartment buildings closed, then I'm doing social media. How can I make this post better? How can I market? Then I'll do after hours emails because I know I can send an email after hours and people see them the next day. So I'm constantly working, constantly working.
Wow.
Now, I will tell you this: every now and then, someone will call me out of the blue. We just did a show in Milwaukee just a few weeks ago, and an apartment community called me out of the blue and booked a show with us. And I had some guys in Chicago who did it for me. It was great. So that is what we always want. We want eventually to turn the tables to where they're calling us, they're reaching out to us. But to be quite honest with you, I'm still grinding every single day.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for that point when it turns.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. That's the hard part. That's what every comedian's wanting is like, I don't have to hit up bookers. I don't have to hit up people. I don't have to go search for gigs. People are calling me. People are reaching out to me. I know Darren and I we did San Antonio. I helped book that tour for him, and I got to feature for him on the road. But it's one of those things where he's like let's look for more stuff and let's look for more stuff. And so even him at his level where he's a headliner, he's everywhere. And if you say Darren Carter, most people know who he is. It's he's still hustling. So I don't think it ever stops. I guess maybe you're Kevin Hart and people are still bugging you for stuff, but maybe that's Jerry Seinfeld. But even at the headliner level, that's not everybody in the world knows who you are. It's going to be a little difficult still. You're still going to have to hustle a little bit.
I totally agree, and I think that's why some comedians are trying to become more creative with where they're going to do it. I mean, speaking of apartment shows, I've seen online where some comedians, I think even in here in LA, well, they actually have a regular show in an apartment, not building, but the apartment unit. And I
Right.
don't know if it's the comedian's apartment, but they actually set the apartment up, and I think it's called apartment show or something like that. And
Yeah.
they'll have pretty good name comedians that come in and do a show in this apartment unit, which is not part of the apartment building itself, but just one person's apartment.
That's
That's
awesome.
kind of creative. Now it's a small, intimate room, but it's fun. It looks like it's a lot of fun. So I think the
Yeah.
comedians are trying to get more creative. Then you got the wineries. I know Augustino does
I see those wineries. Yep.
breweries, you know, country clubs, golf clubs, corporate stuff. Backyard stuff is a thing now,
Yeah. Tommy McGlaren, he used to have the backyard show they did all the time in like Santa Clarita. It was amazing. I don't know if he's ever going to bring it back, but that was awesome.
Yeah,
Backyard shows, I love backyard shows. They're like one of the best because even though it's not tight like a comedy room like you'd want, backyard shows are just so much fun. I used to run a backyard show in Agora Hills, and it's a lot of fun because people are just relaxing. It's just a nice kind of
right.
mellow atmosphere.
Yeah,
But you have to have good audio for that. You have to have a good seating and whatever. So those are things you have to think about. Whereas in a building like the apartment building or complex, if you just do the seats tight enough and everything, you'll be fine. You don't have to worry about sound
right.
going up and out of the way. So that's interesting.
But the backyard shows, you got to also hopefully the person who's doing the show doesn't live next to a Karen.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's true. That's true too. I never experienced that. Like where we were in Agora Hills, it was out by where the horse areas are. So it was like big open houses, these giant houses. So we got to do a backyard there. Nobody cared, and they would invite over neighbors and whatever and stuff. So
Yeah,
it was
that's
fine.
great. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So it was good. That's a lot of fun. Now, when you're booking for the shows in Boston or Wisconsin or Chicago or whatever stuff like that, do you have someone on the ground there that you're coordinating things with, like someone that you trust to be the host to get things going there, or how do you work that out? Because that's a pretty big detail, right?
Yeah, it is. And like a lot of the guys that I have, I use, they've done it enough times where they get it. They know what the deal is. Like with the apartment communities, the unfortunate part about them is they don't have sound equipment.
Right.
So the comedians need to bring their own. So I have guys who have their own stuff, and it doesn't take a lot. A speaker and a mic. That's really all
Yep.
they need. But they get it. So when they get there, they kind of like eyeball the room, maybe change the furniture a little bit, to create a staging area, throw the microphone up, and that's it. And they get it. So most of them, they do it once or twice, and they understand the deal. And what I try to do is I book comedians who live in the towns that we book the shows.
Yeah.
I don't really want to send someone 6 hours to do a show and have to do all that stuff. So if they're doing it in their own city, they can go there, set the show up, do the show, make money, and go home and sleep in their own bed.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I have these guys. Like I have one in particular in New York, Sharon Simon. I don't know if you know Sharon Simon, New York comedian. She's great. She's done a bunch of my shows in New York, and she loves it. She knows exactly what to do. She gets there, she sets up, she does her show. She'll bring a guest spot, or she'll bring an opener, or whatever she does, and she kills. She kills every single time. So I know I can trust her. Every time I do a show in New York City, I call her immediately. She's one of the first people I call. So
That's
yeah,
smart.
it's good to have people like that. And then sometimes you run into a place where like the person I need that normally use is not available. Then I'll find someone else. And after I go through the vetting process, then this is what we have to do with these shows. And then they get it. It's not that hard, really, honestly.
Right.
It's hard. So then do it, and then they're on the roster, and another one comes up, I'll give it to them.
Yeah. And that's why I always tell comedians, if you want to run your own shows, you should buy a speaker or mic system. That's what I did when I first started. I was running shows in Oak Park, Agora Hills, Ventura County area, and I was out there I still have it, and I use it for comedy class and stuff, but I have speakers, mic, all that stuff, because I know I can go anywhere and set up and do a show anywhere, and people can call and say, hey, I need this, I need a show, or I need an MC, or I need things. Okay, do you need audio equipment? I can bring that too, So it's a good thing to have. And I think I invested about $200 maybe. I think that might have been
Yeah, I mean,
what
you
it is.
can
It
go in
wasn't very
there
much.
for less than that too, really. I mean,
Yeah.
well, for apartment shows, the crowds are really small, and it's
Yeah.
a really intimate crowd, so you don't really need a lot of power.
No.
Sometimes I've done this before. Where I've done the show a cappella.
Oh wow.
I don't really like it necessarily, but done it.
Yeah.
So, but with apartments, yeah, you don't really need a whole lot of equipment. But of course, as you get the bigger rooms, you do. But like when I do country clubs, the country clubs typically have their own. They bring the sound equipment. Although you make a good point too, because like we did a country club and they had sound equipment, they had everything set up, but the sound they ran through the speakers the house speaker.
Oh, did it crackle?
Yeah, it sounded really bad.
Yeah.
So
They're not designed for that. So I work for an audio company. Those speakers, guys, if you're listening to this, if you're a country club, those speakers are not made for talking. They're made for music.
right,
They're a different frequency.
right.
They don't do the same thing. And I know that you're like, well, we could save money. That's not how they work. That's not what those speakers. Try hooking a microphone up to your car speakers and doing it. It's not gonna. It doesn't sound the same way.
It was difficult, and
Yeah.
there was and then you find yourself trying to figure out the balance. Do I
Yep.
yell here? Do I bring it in closer? It's just a pain in the butt. But yeah, having sound equipment especially if you're looking to book your own shows,
Yeah.
is crucial. That's a big plus. I saw one guy. If anyone's out there really want to be creative, there's a guy in Charlotte, new comedian, funny guy, but very very ballsy. He, no matter where he was at in public, if it was people there, he would say, "Hey guys, I want to do a quick comedy show for you." And he would gather people around and just start telling jokes.
Wow.
No matter where he was at, if he was in the grocery store, if he can get people standing around. He was at a bar one time, and there was a ledge on the outside patio, and there was probably 10, 15 people on the patio. He goes, "Anybody want to see a comedy show?" And they're like, yeah. He jumped up on the wall and started doing his jokes. And
Wow.
out of that, someone goes, "Dude, you're funny. You should come to my house and do a show for me and my friends." And he booked a show out of that. So,
That's awesome. I know. I've heard of that, like the guerrilla comedy thing, where people just do comedy randomly. I know there was a guy for a while. I want to say it was Santa Monica that would go out with just like his little like roller box and just stop like wherever a crowd was and start doing jokes. I've seen videos like that. I'm always like, the problem is sometimes that can go bad, especially depending on what time of day it is. Like it's nighttime, it's near a bar, people are drunk. You're gonna get hecklers easier. It can become a bigger problem. But I like the idea. I like the gutsiness of somebody being able to do that. Now, after talking about all this, what would be the biggest piece of advice you would give comedians who want to either do something like this or get booked with a booker like you? What would be your biggest piece of advice to them?
Be funny. No, like when I book, if I need to find a comedian for a place, I lean on people who I already have a relationship with. Like say Darren Carter, for example.
Right.
He knows good quality comedy. He knows who's good. And if I say, "Hey Darren, do you happen to know anybody in Fresno?" Because he's from Fresno, whatever.
Yeah.
I'll take a recommendation from him.
Right.
But if you just reach out to me, it's really simple. Just be polite and courteous and say, "Hey, here's my information." I get it all the time. I just got one yesterday from somebody. And just say, "Hey, here's my stuff. I'd love to work with you. If you got anything, available, let me know. Here's a video clip. And then let me know how long you've been doing comedy. And then also some references of people who I could call or maybe reach out to and say, 'Hey, what's your opinion of this guy?' Whatever."
Yeah.
That's really it. I mean, it's sort of the same thing that's been going on for years. It's just the same stuff. It's just be polite and courteous, and then send a quality clip, and then some references.
Yeah.
And then but don't get discouraged if you don't hear anything back.
Right.
Because again, the reality is that there's 1,000 times more comedians than there are opportunities.
Yeah. That's so true.
Yeah. So.
Perfect. Well, Kevin, thank you so much for your time. Thanks for being on the podcast. Don't jump off right away, but thank you guys so much for listening. Thanks for doing this. I'm going to put all the links for Comedy Cartel in the show notes so you guys can check them out and go over there. I'll put the link to the website, and then he can go to his Instagram and all that stuff like that, so you can go check it out. Thanks again for coming on. Thank you everyone for listening. Please go like, subscribe, and have a good one. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.